So my name is Omar Abasad. It's 4:10 p.m., July 30th, 2019. I tweeted a bunch of tweets today. ROSHI and I-911. Those were mine. Um, Talking about sex slavery and sex slave rings and how they operate in full view. And until we are not made aware of the ring and how it's being operated, then it all the activities within the ring and the trafficking activity within the ring looks like everyday activities. You don't clue in unless you become aware that there is trafficking going on. So you have to be able to spot the signs. So with the Epstein story hitting mainstream media, and the appearance of black books. And every day, more and more is coming out about how the ring was operated, why the ring was operated, who were the people that were involved. Um, it would seem that the sexual enslavement of young women were, from what I heard so far, I could be wrong, was only a means to an end. Um, the relationships, well, quote unquote, relationships, encounters is probably a better word, sexual encounters, um, some without consent, of course, were being recorded to be used at a later date. So I've been talking about possible a sex slave operation operating out of this building. That involves some of the cops who are flagging me, and I'm being outsourced to several people. And I'm guessing that the majority of these people are men. And some of these men are extremely rich, billionaires, millionaires, presidents, senior managers, and different industries. Um, and Since I started suspecting that something wasn't right, while I was working at Triavest and staying at my brother's house, it became increasingly clear as time went on and the years went on and the trafficking continued and more people became buyers. Um, I was made aware or became aware of how things are done in a more detailed fashion. Part of the trafficking ring, when it's done covertly, is to terrorize the victim. If you're a willing victim and you're going along with the agenda and you're getting paid, I mean, in some states, in some countries, it's legal, remote or not, with consent. You will not be terrorized. You as being a victim, um, I'm being terrorized. Obviously, I'm not consenting. If someone does consent, then there will not be need. There'll be no need to update publicly and to terrorize publicly and to harass publicly and to degrade publicly because these things, these degradation and dehumanization tactics, are meant to terrorize you, to keep you servile, to keep you depressed in a depressive state. So you don't go looking for something else. You don't develop enough self esteem. You don't develop mentally, emotionally, educationally, academically. You don't develop. You stay in one level, on one level of thinking emotionally, psychologically, and you perform on that one level. You're supposed to be servile, a slave, so therefore you're not supposed to grow in any which way. So part of keeping the person enslaved, like in any slavery system, intimidation is used, fear is used, violence is used, verbal violence, emotional violence, physical violence, psychological violence. These all tactics that are used in any slave system anywhere in the world since we had human beings running around on Earth. There is nothing new in that. Um, so obviously, what I'm tweeting about is being terrorized by a number of people, and that crosses racial barriers. It cuts across every racial group, ethnic group. So this is not a racist. Um, well, let me rephrase that. It's not a race-based crime. It cuts across every ethnic background, and it can also cut across financial levels as well. If someone intend to target somebody, a person is flagged for whatever reason, and the person is targeted and become a target, meaning that you're opened up and you're put out in public. Everything about you is made public. Anybody could do anything to you and get away with it because the tacit agreement within the community or the members of the community who decide to take part, not everybody does. The agreement is not to do anything about it, and that includes the police, and that includes the legal system, people who want to take part in it. Not every judge and not every magistrate and not every lawyer take part in this crime. I'm just saying, like every organization, every system, um, every level of the organization that you're dealing with are susceptible to being infiltrated and corrupted. So what I am tweeting about is um, a system that is being used to terrorize me, not to make. Well, let me rephrase again. To stop me from talking, to discourage me from verbalizing about what's going on. So, I mean, trafficking is a big, big, big business, $1 trillion business and growing, mainly because there are so many vulnerable people that are being created. Their vulnerability is being escalated because of various reasons, so that I'm not going to go into. But simply put, there are a lot of vulnerable people, and not only women, children, of course, and men. So, enslavement is becoming more and more common. So it's not surprising that women who's been vulnerable for a long time, or well, let me say that over. Um, Society has made women vulnerable. So they are susceptible. We are susceptible to being taken advantage of. And this has been going on for eternity. So um, because we live in a culture, a rape culture, of not only women, kids and men as well, um, enslavement is some sort of a derivative of that rape culture, because rape, after all, is meant to degrade and dehumanize. So, and so is enslavement. So if we live in a culture that wants to rape and degrade and dehumanize, then the next step would be to make you a slave. It follows almost naturally in that thinking, in that mode of thinking. So this is nothing surprising. So it's all part of human nature. And um, unfortunately, we live right now in a time where um, some political leaders are choosing to encourage this type of behavior. Therefore, it's being practiced more and more. That will change. We're just in flux right now. Um, we live in a system, universal system, with universal laws that tend to make things in balance. It brings systems into balance. So right now we are experiencing a period in which our feminine and our softer side that everybody has are being completely suppressed. Instead of bringing the yin and the yang in balance within ourselves, and then of course it flows out, so it will be in our society. It's skewing completely, or trying to completely suppress the feminine. So we see all these crimes being committed, not only against women but against humanity. So we have to work to bring those two things in balance. So that's just the analytical side of it. Of course, there's the emotional side, the side that causes all sorts of emotional reactions, and that's dealt with me. I deal with it, and in my home, I tweet about it. That's one way to deal with it. And I do a lot of other things to not to try to use the emotion or the emotions, the range of emotions that is part of the reaction to being subjected to this sort of harassment and torture and targeting, to use those emotions as a motivational trigger, as a source of strength to draw from, to make me, to encourage me, to fuel my drive to create change, to bring us back into balance, to bring the society back into balance. So that's one way. Another way I deal with the emotions that gets triggered as a result of being harassed and targeted. So the posts that I have on my Twitter account sometimes reflect the knee-jerk reaction that targeting can cause. It's not meant to be racist. Um, it's not meant to be anti-government, because I'm not anti-government. It's not meant to be anti-military or anti-cop. I try to, when I talk about the police, I try to say as many times as possible that there are some policemen and women who are taking part in this program, not all. And the same goes for government and government agencies and the court system. Not, of course, not everyone uh, um, decide to become satanic, because this is what we're living in right now. A progressively satanic system that is being brought into, that we are being pulled into, I should say. Not everybody's falling for it. Talk to you another time.